Okay, so the assessment task. You have 5 weeks in which to do this. I will allow 2 lessons in lesson time for you to also prepare.
Oh, so this is home. Yes.
Essentially it is.
So what will our lessons be?
A bit closer to the time. Now, the idea is on the 12th of June, you will need to come into this room with evidence to suggest that you are ready to complete your Viva Voce interview. Okay? By that I mean notes, interview questions, etc. And all of those will be submitted but not marked.
Wait, so interview questions from you to us?
No, the interview questions from you
To someone?
to whom so the system that you've chosen to do. Now, in the case of, I'll use Rachel as an example. She works at Coles. Her system might be the self-checkout system at Coles as a transaction processing system. What would she do to get that information? She might do an interview of her store manager. The store manager might then ask her to ring head office. So she might be on the phone to head office. Okay.
So we can
Jessica might speak to a person who looks after the app at Domino's Pizza for ordering. And she would find out as much as she can about that. Now, if you literally have no connection to any transaction processing system, which I find very difficult to believe, you have things like local libraries, for instance. They use transaction processing systems. Okay? You have our school library. However, I would strongly suggest if you want to interview them that you get me to come across too so I can help explain it. Okay? All right. It is 35 marks. Our total of the weighting is 25%. Let's look at the task description. The task will assess components covered in the communication systems and transaction processing systems topic. You are to research one example of a transaction processing system and how it uses components of communication systems. What examples of communication systems have we done that a transaction processing system might use? What things have we looked at in communications that a transaction processing system might use? Protocols, e.g.
those ones.
secure socket layer. Very good. Very good.
And
Secure
like the
socket
hardware
layer.
stuff like
The hardware, the cables,
the medium, that diagram thing with all those little applications.
the communication system framework diagram. We have a source, we have a destination, we've got it going down between the application.
Wait, is that the thing Mr. Connolly showed us?
So that was the OSI.
Yeah, would you use that too?
So
No,
us
focus
as
on the
Mr.
communication system framework.
So the OSI thing was not part of this.
Well, as you'll remember me saying, the communication system framework is the IPT version of the OSI model.
Oh, okay.
That's what we want to focus on, okay?
Okay.
All right. Your research could involve conducting interviews, using questionnaires, or accessing material publicly available about the TPS. Now, you're sitting there going, TPS, what is that? I'll get to that in a second. You'll be required to submit evidence that the research has occurred. Evidence could include an audio recording of an interview. So you might take your phone and record an interview. That's great.
How about if it's on
What
the
happens
phone?
if
How
they
do you
don't?
do that? Like if you're going to call them, how do you record it?
Just press record. Well, you can't really. Look, press record. If you could do a Skype thing, that would be good. If you can press record. If I hear you talking on the phone, that's evidence.
Oh,
Okay.
that's fine.
All I'm doing is citing the evidence.
What happens if they don't want you to?
If they don't want you to, you need to select a different TPS. Okay, that's why I'm giving you enough time to do it. Okay? You'll be asked a series of questions in a Viva Voce interview relating to the system you have researched. I'll provide coffee and biscuits for you during your interview. Okay. Well, it's just relaxed. It's relaxed. It's not meant to be high pressure. Okay? It's just tell me what you know. It's a conversation. It's a conversation. Okay. All right. Now, looking over, please. Quick. All right. Question 1. Now, these are the questions. Here is the marking criteria. I'm not going to ask you every one of these questions. Okay? There are 15 questions there. 15. And I will ask you 11 questions. Okay?
That's really good. That's so good. Thank
All
you.
right. Now, just skip the marking criteria for the moment. On that day, what I'll expect you to do is, the submission page. If you have that filled out with your name, number, my name, tick up those things, sign it. All right. Yes. Let's move over to assessment task page now. All right. What is a transaction? A transaction, a series of events that are important to an organisation that involve a request, an acknowledgement, an action, and an outcome. Would that be sufficient for you to reply to question 1, define a TPS? No, that is simply a transaction. All right? So, a series of events important to an organisation that involves a request, an acknowledgement, an action, and an outcome. So, what is a TPS? A transaction processing system collects, stores data about a transaction, and sometimes controls decisions made as part of a transaction. The transaction is the activity that changes stored data. Examples of such an activity would be using a credit card, making a reservation, or making a cash withdrawal at an ATM. That is what a TPS is. Okay. Yeah, I'm recording this, so I'll make this available to you anyway. Yep. All right. Do you think that would be a core question I would ask everyone? You would be right. 1. Define a TPS. Explain why your chosen system is classified as a TPS. Okay? Outline the characteristics of a TPS. I will provide you with that information. Describe the participants in your chosen system. Participants are those people who
are involved in the processing.
carry out the information processes or are actively involved in the system. 4. Your chosen system is either a real-time or online transaction processing system or a batch processing system. Identify which type of system it is and explain reasons why it's classified as online or real-time or batch. Now, on the opposite page, there are 2 types of transaction processing systems. There are the definitions for those there. Are checks real-time or batch? You go and pay for something, you submit a check. Do they run to the bank and process the check every time they get a check? No, they collect all the checks up. At the end of the day, they go and bank those. The checks get sent into a clearinghouse in the city. They all get processed at once. The money then gets transferred after 3 to 5 working days. That is a batch transaction. Whereas a a real-time transaction, that is, if I book a air flight on virginblue.com.au, that is conducted in real time because no 2 people can book the same ticket at the same time. Similarly, if I book a concert, no 2 people can book the same concert seats at the same time. That is what we call a real-time transaction processing system. Yep?
So if you pay on EFTPOS with like a check account, what is that?
Can we just leave that discussion for a moment because there are elements of both in an EFTPOS transaction, same as a credit card transaction.
Yeah.
All right. Can I ask you just to have a look? I won't give you any homework tonight. Can you have a read through this for me? And can you write down any questions that you have tonight for discussion tomorrow?
Wait, so you never see the appendix for other ideas?
Yeah, the appendix is the 2 articles I put in there, No Cash, Just Wave and Run, and Banking on the Mobile Generation. That MoneyMax one is a Bankstown Credit Union. Yeah.
Alright, so I'm going to do that one.
Okay. All right. Let me just press stop here. Again,